Hello again people, I am Blunty, and today I'm throwing a review of the newest Nintendo handheld hardware right at your faces. And it is of course the, apparently love it or hate it, Nintendo 2DS. For those who missed the unboxing video I did last week, you might want to check it out. I go over the basics a bit and there's a size and button fill comparison with the 3DS and 3DS XL in there that you may find useful also. So, what is the 2DS? Well, it's a pared back 3DS. It's a 3DS without the glasses-free 3D screen, or if you like, a 3D gimmick-free model. Now, just like the 3DS and 3DS XL, it can play all 3DS games. And of course, the previous generation Nintendo DS games too, with its backwards compatibility mode. So this 3DS without a 3D screen will still work fine for 100% of the games out there, no matter how nifty their use of the 3D is, as, from day one, Nintendo has dictated very clearly to software developers that all 3DS games must be fully playable with the 3D feature turned off, or indeed, in this instance, completely absent. The 2DS can be thought of as having two main target markets. Number one, young kids. Firstly, because it's built to be a bit more robust. Gone are the folding design along with all the moving parts and internal flex cables and the bits and pieces that a hinged design requires. Stripping back the 3D screen and the more complex design also makes it more affordable. And it is perhaps also more desirable for parents who worry that the weird glasses-free 3D screen may affect their tiny tots still developing eyes. The second target market is we grown-ups. The simple, clean, minimalist slate form factor has a mature, almost classy feel to it, with a slight wedge shape tapering to a thin, rounded edge at the bottom. It also fits in large hands very comfortably indeed, I'm here to tell you. As I mentioned in my unboxing, the lack of a folding design has also meant the controls are moved higher up on the body, which actually provides a superbly balanced feeling in hand. It's very comfortable to play the 2DS for hours on end without any issues at all. And speaking of playtime, I did a simple battery rundown test between the 2DS and a standard 3DS. On paper, the specs say they should be exactly the same, but in practice it may be a bit different. Now here I had Wi-Fi on, screen at max brightness, volume down so the plinky music didn't drive me bat crap insane for hours on end, and the 3DS had its 3D slider turned off, and both were idling the suspended eShop software. And while this wasn't a real-world situation, I'll admit, the 2DS did actually outperform the 3DS by a significant margin. Playing games, however, in more real-world situations, at least when compared to a 3DS with the 3D effect turned off, because of course having it on does affect battery life adversely, they were a bit closer together, but anecdotally, in real-world use, the 2DS still did feel like it outperformed on the battery life regularly. The screen is great, and I say screen, not screens, because it's actually apparently just one screen inside, artificially divided so it suits the required 3DS system layout. It's bright and very clear, but of course this isn't a new system, just a new model of an existing system, so there are no changes to resolution or anything like that which would create compatibility issues. And that too means the lower screen is still the old school resistive touchscreen type. The top screen is covered by what feels like a very tough plastic, and it has a little give in it too, so I don't think scratching or even cracking it will be very likely. The bottom screen's robustness will be the same as any 3DS in that regard. Its plastic cover is, as far as I can tell, identical to its siblings. And that of course means if you're travelling with it, a pouch is a good idea. Nintendo have even made one of their own for you, which is quite nice by the way. Tough neoprene with a big chunky zipper and some game pouches and nice soft lining. But back to the screens, I actually found the screen superior to the 3DS screen in many regards. It seems a bit less reflective for a start, which becomes much more noticeable outdoors. The 2DS is much more readable under harsh daylight. And talking of wandering in the real world, it will, for the record, fit into an average back pocket just fine, and indeed comfortably enough to walk around like that. Not that I expect many people will, but fitting it into a pocket is good for times when you need to free up your hands quickly for whatever reason. The stylus is in the side, as it is with the 3DS XL, and it's very similar but not interchangeably identical to the XL's stylus. They're basically the same length and the same design, but they don't clip into each other's socket properly, so keep that in mind whenever you need to buy a replacement stylus. You must buy the appropriate one if you want it to be able to click in properly. It only has a single speaker, as opposed to the 3DS's stereo set, but the volume output was very close nonetheless, close enough that no one will notice at least. You will, however, notice the lack of stereo sound if you are used to a 3DS. because some 3DS games make wonderful use of the stereo field, and of course you won't get that with a single speaker. But the headphone output does sound identical to any other 3DS, so still great stereo sound through a set of good cans slapped onto your head. The circle pad is, as far as I can tell, the same, as are the buttons, except for their letter identifiers, which are moulded into the plastic instead of being printed, which does make it a little bit harder to read for users unfamiliar with the button layout and may catch some crud and dirt in there as well. The D-pad is a bit mushier than either the 3DS or the 3DS XL, but not detrimentally so. It's certainly noticeable, and personally I prefer the very clicky D-pad of the XL, but the spongier nature of the 2DS's D-pad was never actually a problem in-game. It's still very responsive and very accurate, as you'd expect from a Nintendo D-pad. The shoulder buttons are superb. Those I like better than the 3DS or XL. They're huge and wide and with a very slight concave curve that lets your fingers rest very naturally in them. They have more travel than either the 3DS or the XL's shoulder buttons, but they do have the nice soft click to them, so they're still nice and responsive. The cameras, and yes, there is a 3D camera pair on the back despite the unit being unable to actually display 3D images. This is for software compatibility reasons, people. Some software needs the 3D camera for various reasons, so stop spazzing out about it like dumbasses in the comment sections, will ya? It's not stupid or pointless for the 2DS to have a 3D camera. Now, where was I? The cameras. As we found in my shootout video, they are very slightly better than those on its predecessors, but not so much that it makes any real difference. They're still pretty ordinary and useful only for augmented reality games and a bit of fun time messing around and such. And the stills or video taken with the rear 3D cameras are indeed recorded in 3D, so if you move these files over to a 3DS or another device capable of showing them, they will still play in 3D. And again, as I mentioned in my unboxing, if you're a game reviewer or whatever, it's a damn good choice. The lack of a 3D screen and the fact that both screens are on the same plane makes it much easier to video gameplay. And the fact that the two screens are actually the same display panel, which means absolutely identical brightness and colours and colour temperature, makes it even easier to get good, consistent results when you are videoing gameplay. Pop it up on the stand that came with the Kid Icarus game and you've got a damn handy setup for filming gameplay. So, all in all, I really very much like the 2DS. It's a typically Nintendo product, exceptionally well built, very solid feeling, although the plastic does feel a bit cheaper than its glossy siblings, I will admit. But while the plastic feels cheap, the fit and finish is very, very Nintendo, very solidly built. The controls are good or great, the screens are very nice, and the general feel is actually pretty fantastic. It's a joy to game on, really. Now then, speaking personally, I am sticking with my 3DS XL because I love the comparatively massive screens, and mine's a special edition Pokemon X and Y edition, which I'm loving, by the way. Both the special edition 3DS XL and the game, but we'll get to the game in a different review. But the 2DS remains a very viable option. It is a good bit of kit, and I'd expect it'll be a very popular item this Christmas. So thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.